the whole book. So, and this was one of those songs by Bhakti and Thakur, Kabe Habe Bolo. And so in the mood of learning the meanings of the songs, we can have some discussion about what they mean. So the first verse says, "Please tell me, when will that day be mine? When will my offences end? And a taste for the pure holy name will be infused within my heart by the power of divine grace." So this is the first thing, is that if we are to chant the name of Krishna purely, we will have to avoid the offences to the holy name. And the offences to the holy name are given in the Padma Purana, 10 offences to the holy name. So when our devotees are given Harinam by Gurudev or Guru Maharaj or one of our acharyas, then they're always given the booklet detailing the 10 offences to the name. Because how will you avoid them if you don't know what they are? So we should not just take that book at the time of initiation and keep it somewhere on our shelf, but we should very meticulously learn what are those 10 offences and how to avoid those 10 offences. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's actually given in Harinam Chintamani, I think, in that book there, one chapter is called the 10 defences, which is given how to avoid each of the 10 offences. So it's very instructive and practical. So to learn, okay, so I know that this is an offence, then how do I avoid that offence? By this defence.
How can we come to know this? Is it somewhere?
Yeah, in Harinam Chintamani. I think it's in Harinam Chintamani. Either in Harinam Chintamani or in Bhajan Rahasya. In one of those books of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I think it's Harinam Chintamani. The 10 defences against the 10 offences. So they're simple things, simple things.
Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, like the offence of thinking that all of that Krishna is just one of many gods, and any god or goddess is equal with Krishna. But this is offence to the holy name of Krishna, because Krishna is the Parameshvara, and he is the origin of all. Even of Narayana Vaikuntha, Krishna is the origin. So to think that he is equal to, but also to think that he is, that the god, the devatas are separate from Krishna, that they're not related with Krishna. This is one offence to the holy name. So then the defense of that is by understanding that Krishna is the Parameshvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So like this, in a practical way. Jai. Jai. Varanga Kunda. Hare Krishna. Anyway, we can discuss that another time. I actually, as part of my my presentation about the how to improve our japa, that's included in there. And we can discuss that at another time. But the next verse is basically also giving us advice how to chant the holy name of the Lord purely. So considering myself lower than a blade of grass, bringing the quality of forbearance into my heart, showing respect to all, myself being free from all false pride, when will I taste the essence of the liquid nectar of the holy name? So here, this is the clue. To chant the name of the Lord purely is by practicing humility, tolerance, and honor to all, and not expecting any kind of honor or respect for ourselves. So as Mahaprabhu is told, Trinada Pitsunicena, Taroriva Suhishnuna Manina Manadena Kirtaniya Shuddhahari. Then you can say in a way that this song it encapsulates the essential teachings of Mahaprabhu's Shikastakam. The next verse says, wealth, following, beautiful women, as described in worldly poetry. I don't want any such bodily pleasures. O Lord Gaurahari, please give me unmotivated devotion to your lotus feet, birth after birth. So, in a way, we're not being entirely truthful when we parrot that sentiment. I don't want wealth, I don't want following, I don't want beautiful women, and so on. But that may not be true for us. We may want some of those things, or all of those things, or things that are in pursuant of those things. But when we say, I don't want these things, you can say from our perspective, we're saying, Lord, I don't want to have those things. So, it's a kind of like taking a step back. Yeah, actually I want so many things in this material world that really boil down to two things. Comfort, convenience, and sense pleasure. That's what we all want. We want to make a place for ourselves where we'll be comfortable, where we'll be, where we have everything that we require, and we want the gratification of our senses. That's human, that's normal, that's natural. But when I say natural, it pertains to the material nature, not to the spiritual nature. In our spiritual nature, we should not desire any of those things. But to say and to do are not the same thing. So really, what we want is the satisfaction of our Lord. And how to satisfy our Lord is by, instead of using our energy for our own projects, if you like, we use our energy for Krishna's service. And Krishna's service necessarily means under the direction of a Vaishnava, a proper Vaishnava. So, while articulating the divine name of Krishna, will my body be thrilled in ecstatic rapture and my words choked with emotion? When will pallor and ecstatic trembling occur? And when will streams of tears flow constantly from my eyes? So, this is the standard response to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. When we take the name of Krishna, if it is the Shuddha Nam, then necessarily our body will be filled with ecstasy, and all kinds of transformation of the body will take place. Tears will flow from our eyes. So we're not trying to make a show of that. We don't want to show that so people will think, wow, look what kind of advanced devotee is that we're dealing with. But what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is expressing is that this should be the natural response for when they chant the holy name of the Lord. But it doesn't mean that we should try and force those things, like in when you learn acting, sometimes you have to display emotions, right, in the play or in the performance. And a good actor, they can switch it on like that, when some emotional thing happens, they can make themselves cry. You've seen it, I'm sure. You've seen it on the television or in the film or whatever. You see that. And then they learn to do that. They learn to tune in to some emotional response. It's usually like, if it's something very sad, they think, my dog is dead. My dog is dead. And they remember like some painful thing, like when their dog died or something, and it brings a tear to their eyes, So this is in other words, you can program yourself to do all these things, And so crying, you can make yourself cry, you can make, all of those things. You can train yourself to do that, but that isn't real. That's just pretend. It's acting. So that won't give us, just by, teaching yourself to cry whenever you chant the name of Krishna, won't give you real ecstasy. That's, you might fool some of the people into thinking like, wow, Guru Maharaj said of one of his godbrothers, I won't tell his name, but he said that later in his life, that his disciples, they had to make a big cushion for him. Because whenever they opened the curtain or the door to the altar, he would immediately faint. So they had to make this cushion for him to fall on. A very highly respected sannyasi Guru Acharya of Gaudiya mission. But Guru Maharaj said, I did not appreciate that kind of prakrita sahajya display from my godbrother. So, not that. In fact, when we hear from Guru Maharaj that Saraswati Thakur, if those things came to him, and sometimes they did, that he would very astringently hide that. He would hide it so that others didn't see it. Because he thought, how is that helpful if people see that? Then I just become some kind of object that people come to stare at, Then that is not helpful. And also, we don't need that kind of imitation. When once Guru Maharaj said, some very wealthy zamindar came to see Saraswati Thakur, and he said, I want to ask you a private question, is it all right? And Saraswati Thakur said, yes, it's okay. Then, so they arranged in Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur's room 2 chairs. Guru Maharaj said 2 chairs. And Guru Maharaj said, I sat in the corner of the room because I don't know this man, and maybe he wants to do some harm to Prabhupada or something, I don't know. So he said, I thought someone needs to be there to provide protection if necessary, So Guru Maharaj said, I concealed myself in the corner of the room, so I overheard what was being said. So they sat next to each other, and then this man leaned over to Saraswati Thakur and very, very quietly whispered to him, have you seen God? And Saraswati Thakur's reply was, what use will it be to you if I say I have or I haven't seen God? Because I can lie, can't I? I can say, yes, I've seen God, and maybe you believe me, maybe you don't believe me. Or I say, no, I haven't seen God. Then you go away disappointed. So, but the real thing is that you have to see God. Whether I can see God or not, that doesn't help you. You yourself have to see God. So I can teach you how to see God. But just by me saying, yes, I've seen, or no, I haven't seen, that won't help you in the least. Of course, someone may say, oh, then if our Gurudev says, yes, I've seen God, then we'll feel some, great faith will come in us, for that. But that can also be misleading. So, then we start to believe that we are experiencing something that we're not. So, these things are normal. It is normal for those who take the name of Krishna to feel ecstasy. That is normal. But we are in an abnormal position. This material world is the abnormal world. It's not the normal world. So we are all here, you can say, as a result of the misuse of our free will. And we've come here to this material world, and somehow or another, we've come in connection with the path to escape this material world. We've found that there is a method by which we can leave this material world. And it's a very auspicious and fortunate thing, because generally there are two states of being in this material world. One is, and this is the most common, is that we are in the category of exploiting the material world and being exploited in the material world, exploiting and being exploited. Mutual, it's a mutual thing. I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back. That's how things go in this material world, isn't it? You get a job for someone, and you do something that you don't really want to do, but you do it anyway, because at the end of the month they'll give you a paycheck. If they didn't give you a paycheck, you wouldn't come back next month, would you? So that's how it is, and your boss knows that he has to give you something to keep you coming back. So he doesn't want to pay you. He'd much rather that you came and did the work for free. But he knows you're not going to do that. So that's the nature of this world, Jivo jivasya jivanam. One living entity is food for another living entity. In one sense or another, in an absolute sense or in a relative sense. So this is the plane of exploitation. So then that means that we have to labor and live. Labor and live. This material world means labor and live. You do some labor and thereby you can live in this material world. But that's always at the expense of somebody else. Some other living being or some other object in this material world. And so it goes on. So, as they say, the big dog eats the little dog. That's... we also have some experience of that in this material world. So but we don't know any other way. We don't know any other way to subsist in this material world. Then who was? I went to work for a very famous architect in London once. His name is Ove Arup. And he designed many of the buildings in London. Very famous architect. And his company was a very big, prestigious company in central London. And his philosophy of life was, if for your work you do what you love, then it isn't work. And it's correct, isn't it? I don't think, like Paul McCartney gets up in the morning and thinks, I've got to write another song and I've got to play the guitar. He loves it. He loves doing that. That's what he loves to do, So for him, it's not work. It's made him millions. He's one of the wealthiest men in the world doing what he loves. But for most people, that isn't reality, is it? Most people struggle from day to live. So another great renowned industrialist, Henry Ford, he said that what we do for our subsistence is just that. It's what allows us to do the other things that we love in our life. So it's like a labor that we have to do to enable us to do the other things in life that we love, and that's more realistic for most people, isn't it? Of course, for some people, that's all they do. They just work, and they never do anything but work, because they have no alternative. There's not that no one's going to help them out if they don't make enough money to survive. So they work all the hours that God sends them. But all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, as they say. But for most people, especially in the Western world, we have some kind of a balance, isn't it? You do so much work every week, and then you have so much time off. And it's kind of a recent thing that especially this culture of in finance and the people who work in the city of working these ridiculous long hours. So it's kind of a macho thing that everybody has to do. Nobody leaves work before 8 o'clock in the evening, and if they do, they're looked on as some kind of you're skiving or something. Yeah. So, but that's kind of a relatively new thing, and it's all part of this plane of exploitation. I was reading about what they used to have previous to the Industrial Revolution. They used to have what was called indentured servitude, which is kind of a step up from slavery. But it meant that you generally, in the West, especially in England, they used to have what was known as the feudal system. And the feudal system is a little bit like the caste system in India. So you'd have the priest class, you'd have the nobility who were, like the Kshatriya type, and then you'd have the merchants and farmers and so on, and then you'd have the laborers, right? So most people before the Industrial Revolution, they worked in service to a landowner. That was the normal thing. So, someone would own land, and if you worked for them, you would have a plot of land on their land, and you would cultivate that land, and whatever you grow, yes?
Like this name salary that they pay people with salt sometimes.
Yeah. So it seems like, right, so everything you grow crops on your land that you've been given in servitude to this landowner, and whatever you grow, so percentage of that you have to give to the landowner, right? As a kind of rent, so, but...
Lease, it is called lease.
Yeah, like lease, or tithe. It was tithe.
In our country it still existed.
Yeah.
Landlord, they have to give somebody will produce crops.
Yeah.
And when they will cultivate, then at that time they will share.
Yeah.
The landlord will get a big portion.
The biggest portion, yeah.
Yeah, it's very...
But actually, right, so it seems like it's not a very good deal, but actually it wasn't too bad here in the UK during that time, because you'd get a cottage that you and your family would live in. You'd cultivate the land, but the normal thing was you only had to work 2 days a week for your landowner. The rest of the time was your own. As long as you produced your crop and gave that seems like a pretty good deal to me.
House and job.
Yeah, house and 2 days work, that was more or less what you did. And the rest of the time you did whatever you wanted to do for yourself, with your family and everything, Now if you get a weekend off, you're lucky, isn't it? So it's kind of gone in another way, but it's acceptable. Anyway, kind of going off the point a bit really, but the point I wanted to make is that this is the normal way that people live in this world now, is that you work for somebody else, they give you something, then it's the plane of exploitation, Guru Maharaj said, but exploitation means, that you exploit those people and things that are lower than you, and those people that are higher than you in the hierarchy, they exploit you. So that's the way it goes, so that's more or less for everybody. But that plane of living is reactionary. So, as Newton said, right, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So whatever you do will produce some karmic reaction in the environment. And that karmic web is what keeps us here in this material world. We can't leave the material world because we're always in debt to somebody. Even death doesn't stop that. If you owe something to the environment, you'll have to be reborn to pay that again. And this is just the fact. Even when I remember when I bought Bhakti Lalita when she first came to India to meet Srila Gurudev, and Gurudev sent me to meet her at the airport, so I brought her to him, and they were discussing, right, and she said she wanted to, live more or less, like a nun. That was her idea, and Gurudev said, do you want to have children? And she said, no, I don't want to have children. And he said, that's good, because to give birth means you have to take birth. So, that this is just the nature of this material world. So then those who have, you can say, a higher, maybe higher, but like a little more refined thinking, they think, I want to disassociate myself from all this action and reaction, because it just binds us to this world. Whether we like it or not, it just binds us to the world. Even if you say, right, that as we're taught in the Karma Kanda, if you just do punya and try and avoid pap, right? So in other words, you just do good work and don't do any sinful work as much as possible, then you'll amass a pious credit. But that also means you have to take birth again to enjoy that pious credit, to get the payout, if you like. So that also ultimately isn't good, because that also binds us to the material. And furthermore, it's almost impossible to just do good anyway. Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher, he said, the only thing that's pure in this world is pure intention. But Guru Maharaj said, but we don't believe that anybody has actual pure intention. It's always tinged with something, with some selfishness, or it's not pure in its intent. And even if it is, as we all know, the road to hell is paved with good intention. So if you do good for someone, somebody else must suffer as a result of that. That's just the way it is, right? So what's the best that they can, politically, they understand the best that you can ever hope to achieve is the greatest good for the greatest number. But you can't do good for everyone. Someone will have to suffer. Some minority will have to suffer so that the majority can thrive. It's just the way it is in this. So those who may be a little more intelligent, they think better to disconnect from that. And so they want to practice renunciation of the world. They want to renounce the world, thinking that will give them freedom from the cycle of action and reaction, cycle of birth and death. But that also isn't natural. So Guru Maharaj compares the two. In the scripture, they're called Bhukti and Mukti. So, the path of exploitation, that's called Bhukti. And the path of renunciation, Mukti. But Guru Maharaj compares them to, like, if you work for a company. So if you work for a company, and when the boss is away, you rob him, That's what happens, isn't it? Sometimes the boss goes away, they go into the stock cupboard and load up their bags and take it home with them, isn't it? Or, they put this, I'll have that stapler, I'll have some paper, like people who work in offices do that all the time. So, if everyone does that, if everybody steals from their employer while the boss is away, the company's going to go down, isn't it? So that's like Bhukti, right? Because Guru Maharaj says we live in an organic whole. We don't live as like separate entities. We live as a part of an organic whole. So if we plunder from the company, then that will mean the company will ultimately fail, because all the workers robbed the company till there was nothing left. So no profit. Then if you decide to renounce the world, so that's like going on strike. Okay, we're not going to talk about whether workers should be allowed to strike. That's another thing altogether. But if everyone lays down their tools and refuses to work, also the company is going to go bust, isn't it? After a while. So the way that the company thrives is if everybody works together so that the company is successful. So renouncing the world is like going on strike. Guru Maharaj says a strike in the organic system. That's also not natural. So Bhukti and Mukti, they're both unnatural states. Although Mukti, renunciation of the world, it has a higher prestige in the eyes of philosophers and so on. They think, oh, he's a sannyasi, or he yogi, or lives in a cave, or whatever it is. Then people admire that. At least cultured people, they admire that. But still, Guru Maharaj said, no, that's also unnatural. So, but the wholesome state is where everybody works together for the benefit of the center. So using that example, the company, everybody works to make the company successful. In a similar way, everybody works to satisfy the center. So that's the path of dedication or bhakti. So bhakti is the normal situation for all living entities, the normal status of all living entities. But we've strayed away from that. We live in an abnormal society, more or less as a defense mechanism, right? Survival mechanism. We've learned that to survive we have to exploit, and that we don't know any other way. So this is a kind of revolutionary thing, that no, you can actually live by dedicating yourself to the center. And we see practically that although it may seem impossible, that actually Krishna, when you dedicate yourself to Krishna, he provides everything you need. I call Krishna the Lord of the 11th hour, because he always shows up at the 11th hour, to just at the last moment when you think everything is lost, suddenly he shows up and makes everything right. If we have faith in him, He doesn't give us everything easily. That's my point. He makes us work for it. It's not that we, yes, we surrender to Krishna, we don't have to do anything anymore. So as Gurudev would say, we are to not surrender and lie down, but surrender and serve. So that's the clue, the solution is to serve the center. So that it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary because we think, if we're not out there exploiting to the best of our ability, how are we going to survive? Isn't it? People think that if I don't have, the job and I don't have all the things that go along with that I'm not going to survive. I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. I'm not going to, And for most people, that is true. That is true. So, Krishna advises in the Gita that you do your duty, but do it as an offering to me. So that's the general advice, He doesn't say to Arjuna, like go and live in the forest, does he? He tells him, don't do thy fight for the sake of fighting. You are a Kshatriya, it's your dharma. So do that as your duty. But this is Krishna's general advice, you can say, in the Gita, is do your duty and do it as an offering to me. This is karma yoga. And basically the difference between karma yoga and bhakti yoga is only one thing, and that's bhakti. That whatever you do as an offering to Krishna. Out of duty, that's karma yoga. When that duty becomes love, that becomes bhakti. You may be doing the same thing, but because it's inspired by love rather than by duty, now it's bhakti. That's actually the difference. Bhakti means loving devotion. So sadhana bhakti also means dutiful devotion. Until we have love, which is raganuga bhakti, we have to do vaidhi sadhana bhakti, means dutiful service to the Lord. And we will do that as well as everything else that we do in the world. That's necessary. But finally, Krishna says, sarva dharmam parityajya, isn't it, in the 18th chapter? Mamikam shananam brajaham tam sarva papebhyo mokshaya shananashuja. So he says to Arjuna, so I've taught you everything, but now I say to you, whatever you consider to be your dharma, leave that, just surrender to me. And don't think that, that the sin will overcome you if you abandon your worldly duty, your obligation in this world. But rather, I'll protect you from that, and you will come to me. The clue is in the words that Krishna uses. Mamekam sharanam braja. That if you surrender to me, you will come to me in Braja. Braja means Vrindavan. It does not directly mean Vrindavan, but in a hidden way it means Vrindavan. So you will come to me in Vrindavan. But it must be real. Surrender must be real. So not that we're just running away from our duty in the world, but genuinely we should be running towards Krishna. Not running away from the world, but running towards Krishna. That's what it means to surrender to Krishna, to the will of Krishna. We see so many examples of this in Mahaprabhu's Leela. Like Raghunath Das Goswami wanted to come to Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu said, no, you stay at home and do your duty, and do it better than you would do beforehand. And when the time is right, I will arrange, you will come to me then. So, and Krishna used, in that example, Krishna used a kind of Mahaprabhu used a naughty example. He said to Raghunath Das Goswami, he said, you be like the married woman who has a lover. So, when she's doing the duty of her family duty, looking after her husband and her children, she'll do it even better than she did before, so that they're not unhappy with her, and that they will not suspect, you can say. Said, but while doing all of that, in her heart, she's thinking of her lover. And for her lover, she's doing all of these things. So your lover is Krishna. Then you do your duty perfectly at home. But all the time you think of Krishna. And you think of Krishna. And then when the time is right, Krishna will make the arrangement to bring you. And that was the case. Raghunath Das Goswami, he was like, you can say like a prince. His family was so wealthy, but he's so renounced, and mother and father, they're afraid he's going to become a sannyasi and run away from home. They're afraid of that. Then mother says to as it happened, that in their house, they have like the inner part of the house and the outer part of the house. At one stage, he wouldn't go into the inner part of the house anymore. He only lived on the outer part, like in the courtyard. And so they're thinking, any time he's going to make a break for it. So his father employed what were supposed to be like his bodyguards to look after him, but really they were to make sure that he didn't run away. And the mother, she's so worried. She says, maybe we should chain him in the yard. Put a chain around his ankle, and he can move around freely, but only to the length where the chain is. And his father said, don't you understand, that already his wife is more beautiful than Lakshmi Devi. If she can't keep him here, no chains are going to be able to keep him here. And so it was the case, and then when the time came, by the grace of Nityananda Prabhu, he was able to leave home and join with Mahaprabhu. Then we will do our duty in the world until, you can say, till Krishna calls us to a higher duty. Then the next line says, when in the land of Navadvip, on the banks of the Ganges, will I run about guilelessly calling, O Gora, O Nityananda, dancing and singing like a madman, giving up all considerations. And this is one of the things that will happen if you become intoxicated with the holy name of the Lord. You will appear as if you're become mad, and the normal people will not be able to understand your behavior. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was the greatest Pandit in the world. That's what his name literally means. Sarvabhauma means all over the world. Bhattacharya. He was the greatest Pandit of his time. Not just in India, like in the whole world. And Mahaprabhu converted him to become a devotee. And after he became a devotee, fully he became a devotee. Mahaprabhu tested him by coming one morning, early in the morning, bringing him Jagannath Prasad. And while he was still in his bed, and he came, Sarvabhauma, I bought some prasad from Lord Jagannath for you. You cannot believe how wonderful this prasadam is. Please take it immediately. Previously, Sarvabhauma was, like a Pakka Brahmin. And he won't eat anything before rising from his bed and bathing and doing his ablution and, chanting his mantra and everything. Then he'll take some prasadam. But Mahaprabhu knows that. That was his previous style, if you like. Then he came with this prasadam early in the morning while Sarvabhauma is still in his bed, hasn't risen from his bed, and told him, take this prasadam. And without a second thought, Sarvabhauma took that prasadam, immediately took that prasadam, no consideration whether he's clean or whether, anything of that. Then Chaitanya Dev knew, he has become my man now. He has become my man, fully converted to Vaishnavism. And that Sarvabhauma, he told, let the censorious people of this world say what they will about us. We don't care. They may call us mad. We don't care. We shall just drink the wine of Harikatha and roll on the floor like crazy people. We don't care what the people say about us. Let us just do that. They'll say whatever they're going to say. That's what's going to happen. Then that's also a scary prospect. That the general people will think you're nuts. We know that, right? Even to a small degree. You go out on Sankirtan and people shout at you, you crazy people, get a job, why don't you, why are you chanting and dancing in the street like idiots, We already know that. People throw things at you, and, so on. But you see the Sankirtan party, they don't care. They lap it up, actually, They love it. They love it. And they dance and chant even more fervently. They do that, They like that. Then they don't care for the abuse of the others. In fact, Guru Maharaj said once, to be a devotee of Krishna means that you will live on a diet of dal and gall. He meant, that you will just eat simple food. Dal is a very simple food, and also you will receive the abuse of others. Gall means the abuse of others. This is so common thing because people feel threatened when they see the Sankirtan party, even if they don't understand why. Generally, people, when they don't understand something, they try to abuse it, isn't it? So people will think you're crazy, and ultimately you will also become crazy. You'll become crazy for Krishna, that nothing else will be important to you anymore. The things of this world. That's why, our acharyas, they've advised us, that if you're attached to the things of this material world, if you're attached with your friends and your family and your position in society, all of these things, if you're attached to those things, anything, then it's better that you don't look at that boy, that blackish boy with the eyes like lotus flowers, who stands with the threefold bending posture on the banks of Keshigat with the flute in his hand. Don't look at him. Because once you see him, everything in this world will seem like rubbish to you after that. It will. And, then better stay away. Stay away from that boy. But I'm sorry to say, that it's too late for all of you. You've already cast your glance toward him. And it's only a matter of time now. You won't be able to hold on to the things of this world. You think you will, but you won't. That sooner or later you'll realize that it's all rubbish. That whatever you thought was important in this world is all rubbish. And only the lotus feet of Krishna is important to you anymore. When will Lord Nityananda be merciful to me and release me from the illusion of worldliness, giving me the shade of his lotus feet? When will he allow me to enter the marketplace of the holy name? Now, this is most natural and important to us, is the the grace of Nityananda Prabhu. The grace of Nityananda Prabhu. Mahaprabhu, he empowered Nityananda Prabhu. Those that do not want Krishna Prema, your job is to make sure that they get it anyway. In fact, Nityananda Prabhu, he's like Avadut. In fact, he became known as Avadut. They forgot his name was Nityananda, and Avadut is coming. And he would come. Sometimes he's coming dressed in, silks and finery, and sometimes he's coming naked, forgotten to put any clothes on. Then that is the activity of an Avadut. He doesn't follow the social norms or the rules and regulations. But finally, and no one knows, right, he's a sannyasi or he's a brahmachari or what his position is. Guru Maharaj said, some say he was a sannyasi, but Nityananda is actually a brahmachari name, not a sannyasi name. He said, but whether he was or whether he wasn't, then finally Mahaprabhu said, you will have to go to Bengal. Rupa and Sanatan I've given, northern India, and then I will take the southern India, and you will have to go to Bengal. He said, the Bengalis, they're a very hard nut to crack. Only you can preach in Bengal. He told Nityananda Prabhu, sent him to Navadvip for preaching in Bengal, and told him, now you marry. And Nityananda Prabhu, the Avadut, he married 2 sisters. They were sisters, Janava and Vishuddha. Then Vishuddha is the mother of Birachandra, and Janava, she didn't have any children. They are the 2 wives of Nityananda Prabhu. And he preached. Mahaprabhu told him, go with the straw between your teeth from door to door, and you ask every householder, humbly ask them to lead a holy life and take the name of Krishna. And Nityananda Prabhu, he did that, but modified way. Because he went door to door with the straw between his teeth. He fell on the floor in front of the householders. But he didn't say, take the name of Krishna. He said, take the name of Mahaprabhu. Take the name of Gauranga. If you take the name of Gauranga, I will become your slave. I will be sold to you. So that was his preaching. Take the name of Gauranga. Bhaja Gauranga, Kaha Gauranga, Laha Gauranga Na. This was Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu, he is the savior of all. That is, we saw that our Guru Maharaj in his last days, when we knew Guru Maharaj, if Guru Maharaj isn't like preaching, then he's chanting on his japamala, like all day, all night, with his japamala, taking Harinam. But in the last days, he's just taking shelter of Nityananda Prabhu. Last days he forgot everything. Threw off his sacred thread, threw off his kanti mala, everything. And he told the boys that were like attending to him, you just make sure if Govinda Maharaj comes that I'm wearing some clothes. Because he just forgot everything about his external life, And in the night, he's calling for Nityananda Prabhu. And those boys would come with Guru Maharaj's japamala and say, they can hear Guru Maharaj is in pain, feeling some pain of separation. They say, if you take your mala, you'll feel some relief. And Guru Maharaj said, give the mala to Govinda Maharaj. I don't care for that anymore. I can only take shelter of the holy name and the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. That is my only hope. So we saw that was in his last days. But he's teaching us by that Nityananda Prabhu, he is everything to us. So this is echoed here by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, saying, by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, when he'll be merciful to me, I'll become free from the illusion of worldliness, and if I take shelter of his lotus feet, he'll allow me to enter in the marketplace of the holy name, the Namahata. And he says, I shall buy and plunder the mellow of the name Hari. and become thoroughly intoxicated by those liquid mellows of the holy name. I shall become stunned by touching the feet of those great souls who are able to relish those mellows. I will be constantly immersed in the sweet nectar of the holy name. When will there be an awakening of compassion for all fallen souls? And when will this Bhaktivinoda, forgetting his own happiness, with a meek heart, set out to propagate by humble entreaty the sacred order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? We know Guru Maharaj's godbrother, his name was Parvat Maharaj. And that Parvat Maharaj, he grew up in the house next to Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Surabi Kunj. There, he was his next door neighbor as a boy growing up, Then he said Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the early hours of the morning, he would come into his garden and chant on his mala. And sometimes there was a concrete chair in the garden, sometimes he'd sit in that chair and sometimes chanting. And he said, but his chanting wasn't like anybody else's chanting. When he's chanting Harinam, he said, it was like a child calling for his mother. He said, sometimes we felt like that, like a child calls out for his mother. Or sometimes like a girl calls for her lover. So sometimes this was his kind of chanting, Then if you hear that every day, right, living next door to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for sure you're going to become a devotee of Krishna, isn't it? And not only a devotee of Krishna, he became a disciple of Saraswati Thakur, a sannyasi of Saraswati Thakur. Parvat Maharaj, his name. Anyway, so this Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and now he's saying, when will I feel compassion for other fallen souls? We heard from Guru Maharaj that in his last days, the group of students from Calcutta, they came to see him, and they said, he's like in his last days, he's given up his government service, everything. He's just, like completely cultivating his inner life. And, sometimes he's receiving people, sometimes he's too much absorbed in all of that to be able to even like function. Then these students from Calcutta, they came to see him, and he, they brought him in. His attendant or servant brought them in, and he said, what do you want? What can I do for you? And they said, we heard that you are a great devotee, and we want to hear something about Krishna from you. And Guru Maharaj said he became like in a trance. Oh, you want to hear about Krishna? Krishna, you say, you want to hear something about Krishna? And he became like overwhelmed, just by that. Oh, you are so fortunate that you want to hear something about Krishna. Oh, I cannot, imagine like what fortune you have, just that you want to hear something about Krishna from me. So this is, the heart of a saint, that even when somebody shows the slightest interest in Krishna, they become overwhelmed with feelings of compassion for them. Oh, you want to hear something about Krishna. Because really, it's a very rare thing in this world that anyone wants to hear something about Krishna. How often does someone come and say to you, can you tell me something about Krishna? Maybe you can count on your one hand how many times that's happened in your life. Someone actually came and said, can you tell me something about Krishna? No, it's like, even if they're interested in Krishna consciousness, they're like, can you tell me about this process you're following? How will it benefit me in my life? And, all of these things. But who actually has some desire to hear something about Krishna? That's a very rare thing. Even amongst the devotees, it's a very rare thing. I mean, it goes beyond curiosity. A real heartfelt desire to hear something about Krishna from the lips of a Vaishnava. That is, if you have that desire, then your life is perfect. If you really want to hear something about Krishna from a Vaishnava, then everything that is really desirable in life, that will come to you. Just from that desire to hear something about Krishna. Because how long we've been in this life running away from Krishna, trying to find anything to occupy our time apart from Krishna, isn't it? And if we have some connection with Krishna, it's like that Krishna will give something to us, provide something to us, give some benefit to us. But that genuine desire to hear the qualities of Lord Krishna, to hear about the pastimes of Lord Krishna, to understand something about Lord Krishna, how we are able to mold our life in such a way that we can satisfy Lord Krishna. That's the real goal of life. Is, not to make Krishna part of our life so that our life will become joyful and auspicious and we will benefit from that. Of course that's there, but ultimately our desire is to satisfy Krishna, to really satisfy Krishna. If our hope is that we can make our life in some way that Krishna's satisfaction can become the center of that, then that becomes really worthwhile. Then our life becomes really successful, even if we're unable to satisfy Krishna. That just by the desire to try and satisfy our Lord in some way. And that means to satisfy Krishna's devotee. If Krishna's devotee is satisfied, then definitely Krishna is satisfied. And without Krishna's devotee, then more or less it's just imagination. Krishna is just an imaginary thing without Krishna's devotee. It's like, it's like setting up a hot dog stand outside Buckingham Palace and thinking that the Queen will be satisfied with you for doing that. First of all, you'll probably just be moved along, right? You haven't got a license to set up a hot dog stand here. No, I want to satisfy the Queen. No, that's not the way to satisfy the Queen, is it? So, coming before the deity of Krishna, coming before the altar of Krishna, and doing whatever it is we think we can do to satisfy Krishna, won't satisfy Krishna at all. But if you want to satisfy your Queen, you will try and find out from her minister what she requires of you. This is the President Kennedy. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but rather ask what can I do for my country. So Guru Maharaj, like coining that, he said, so we should not ask what can Krishna do for us, but rather what can I do for Krishna. Now this is the proper method. And who will you approach? Who will you approach? Not the guru of your imagination in your head. That won't do. Anyone who takes his mind as his guru has a fool as a disciple. Isn't it? So, you have to approach a genuine Vaishnava. And they will be able to inform us how to satisfy Krishna. And how to make your life, not just, come to the temple a couple of hours a week and do something and that's it, I did my bit to say. No, your whole life, every breathing moment will be an expression of your desire to satisfy your Lord. That's what we need, and nothing less than that. We can't think that that anything less, any ritual or any practice that we do will satisfy Krishna ultimately. Krishna wants you completely. Not just for a couple of hours a week, or even, once a year on Janmashtami, or, whatever. No, he wants you completely. Sarojini Thakur said, in India particularly, and we've seen many times, especially wealthy people, they have some festival and they pay a priest to worship Krishna, isn't it? And they make some festival there. And we've also been to some of those festivals where we've been invited to be those priests to worship Krishna for that. But Sarojini Thakur, he said, that won't do. Just paying somebody else to worship Krishna. No, you have to worship Krishna. You yourself have to worship Krishna. And not just on some special occasion, but all the time. So that everything you do becomes an offering of worship to Krishna. Everything. And okay, we may feel that we're very far away from that. But every journey starts off with one step, isn't it? So, we should try to make our attempt one step at a time towards Krishna. Maybe we can only come and see Krishna once a year on Janmashtami. Okay, it's a start, isn't it? Then, maybe also come once a week and see Krishna. Or, once a day and see Krishna. That, step by step by step, we can try and make our life in that way, mold our life in such a way that everything will take us towards Krishna, not away from Krishna. That power we have, right? We can say, the choices that we make in our life every day, we can consider, is this going to help me towards Krishna or take me away from Krishna? Maybe we're not always sure. But we can ask. Though that Vaishnavas or those Vaishnavas that we have faith in, this proposal has come to me. Should I take it? Will it help me towards Krishna or will it take me away from Krishna? When I was serving as a young boy in our mott as a pujari, and then it came in my life. I want to get married now, and so I wrote to Guru Maharaj. I didn't have any person that I wanted to get married. I just wanted to be married, like living in a married life, So I wrote to Guru Maharaj in Navadvip. Is it okay? Can I have your permission? As I think, if I'm going to have a wife, I need to have a house, I need to have a job, I need to have all these things. Then Guru Maharaj said, yes, I give you my permission. He said, but with this caveat, if you like, this you must remember, that independence is the demon that takes us away from Krishna's service. Remember that. So, then we have free will. We can do whatever we want to do in our life. Krishna's given us free will. But we should try to make our life dependent on Krishna and dependent on the Vaishnavas. And we always remember that independence is the demon that takes us away from Krishna's service. And Krishna's service is the goal of our life, to serve Krishna in a real way, in such a way that we can't imagine our life without that service connection. We need that. As much as we need air and water, we need Krishna's service. If we really feel that, genuinely feel that, then we won't go wrong. Because sincerity is invincible. And Guru Maharaj will always say, if you're not in the market to be cheated, then nobody can cheat you. Only if you're in the market to be cheated. That's the problem, right? That one of the human defects is we have the propensity to cheat others, but also to cheat ourselves, to deceive ourselves. And there's nothing worse than self-deception. It's the worst thing of all. To think that what I'm doing is justified in my life. But really it's just taking us far away from Krishna's service. It's self-deception. And there's always some proposal that's going to come up to you. You need to do this, you need to do that, this is important, that's important. We were just discussing the other day, right, when Srila Prabhupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, when he met his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, And after hearing Saraswati Thakur telling, that we should try to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, etc., then he made some objection, didn't he, Prabhupada? He said, that's all very well, but while we're under the subjugated by the British, then who will hear your preaching about Chaitanya Dev? First, the most important thing is that we get freedom from British rule. But Saraswati Thakur wasn't going to have that. He said, no, that's not true. Doesn't matter who's running the country. That doesn't matter. Krishna consciousness is the imperative thing for everybody. Whether the British rule India or whether India rules India, that's not important. And if I just spend my time fighting against the British, said then in my next birth I may have to take birth in Britain to fight against India. So it doesn't matter. Those things are... But in our mind, so many things come up that we think, I'll have to take care of this first. Then I can practice Krishna consciousness. Or, once that's sorted, But really it's not the fact. There's never anything that's more imperative than your Krishna consciousness, than your inner life. Because without that, you can't do anything genuinely. Whatever you do will be misconceived. If you think, I have my duty to my family, I have to do this, I have to do that, that's okay. But if that's at the cost of your Krishna consciousness, then it's misconceived. Because how will you help your family if you're not Krishna conscious? Really, seriously. It's like, if you can't swim, how will you be able to save somebody that's drowning? You can't, can you? You will drown too. So first thing is, learn to swim. So in other words, learn to be Krishna conscious first, and then once you're Krishna conscious, then you can help others. Because when you go on the airplane, they say to you, if there's a drop in cabin pressure, a mask will come down. Make sure you fit your own mask before you try and help anybody else, That's what they say. Because what happens, our natural, if you're a parent especially, you've got your kids with you, your natural thing will be try and get the mask on the kid first. But if, while trying to do that, you pass out, then you'll die and your kid will die too. First thing, make sure your mask is on, then you can help your kids. So that's just common sense, isn't it? They don't say it just for a laugh. It really is necessary for people to understand that. So similarly, we think we have so many duties to perform in this world, but our number one priority should be our own Krishna consciousness. Then we can help those who we have responsibility for. Then we can genuinely help them. So, physician heal thyself, as it says. So, we need to take care of our own Krishna consciousness first. Then we can help others. We can help everyone. And but without that, all of our help will be misconceived. It will all be misconceived. You'll just be helping to save the drowning man so that he can drown in the ocean of misconception in this material world. No, our real duty is to first save ourselves and then try and help others to be saved. And that isn't arrogance or anything. That's just normal and natural. That if something has genuinely benefited you in your life, you'll want to share that with others, isn't it? If something has really helped you, like people say, I've got this complaint or I've got that complaint. If you've suffered from a similar complaint, you'll say, you should. I tried this and it was really helpful. That's just normal. You do that, right? I took this medicine or I did this diet or something. Really helped me. Might help you too. So similarly, everybody's suffering in this material world. We're all suffering, but we can say, you know what really helped me? Krishna consciousness. That helped me in my life. Maybe it'll help you too. Give it a try. You never know. So. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, isn't it? We can't as they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But still, if you have some earnestness that there's something particularly sweet about Krishna consciousness, so sweet that you want to give it priority in your life above everything else, and how will you not want to share that with others? This is just a normal thing. If you have any care for anybody, you want to share Krishna consciousness with them. And if they don't want to take Krishna consciousness, that will make you sad. Anyway, we still have to continue with our life, whether people listen to what we have to say or not what we say. Maybe we don't have much power to make people, convince people about Krishna consciousness, but we know our Gurudev does. Do you know, once, I know it's going on and I'll just finish now, but I just remembered once when I was about maybe 23 or 24 years old, I was in Calcutta, and I went to the airline office. I travelled to India on Bangladesh Biman. So they had an office in Calcutta, and I went there, to confirm my return ticket and everything. While I'm sitting there, I was wearing the dhoti and with shaved head and everything, and I'm sitting in the office, and sitting next to me was like a mullah, and he was a full regalia and everything. I didn't pay much attention to him, but he started talking to me, and it turns out he was from Texas, and he had this really broad American accent, and so he's talking to me about Texas, and he says, "Oh, so you're a follower Hinduism," and like this. So we had some general discussion, and then he says to me, right, so if you've got maybe it was 1984, if you've got the 1984 new Mercedes-Benz, having the 1976 manual isn't going to help you, is it? You need the up-to-date manual, he says. And I said, okay. And he said, Muhammad, he's the seal of the prophets, he's the latest prophet, and you have to follow, he's the updated manual, Mm-hmm. And I said, well, okay, but I would say that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's the updated manual, and his representative, my Guru Maharaj, he's living in Navadvip now, and if you like, I'll take you to meet him. You can meet him, and he'd be happy to have some discussion with you about which manual you should be following. He said, well, I'm flying this evening, and very kindly he gifted me a Quran, a copy of the Quran, and I didn't have anything with me to give him in return, unfortunately, but it's true, that it is the latest version of the manual is necessary for us, and the real Acharya, they are able to devise a way of presenting Krishna consciousness that's applicable to the modern world. So we're not just following, some old books that, dusty old books, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that are no longer relevant to life in the modern world. They're, first of all, the scripture is living, and those who are enlightened with the truth of that, they can present those teachings so that they're relevant to the world that we live in today. And the absolute truth, the spiritual truth, is always relevant. It's not, it was relevant 5,000 years ago or 500 years ago. It's relevant now. And
it is eternal.
It is eternal, yeah, that's right. So, and who has life? Prabhupada used to say, who has life they can preach. So then it's not just a rote thing, not just something that you read in a book and you just explain it according to how you heard it. But no, in relation to this modern world today, And that was what Guru Maharaj said. He said, when I met Saraswati Thakur and I heard him speak, my thought was, this is not just somebody who's vomiting what he's read in a book, but is actually presenting something fresh and alive and relevant to today. So this is, Krishna consciousness is that. It's the updated manual, you can say. And those who have life, they can preach. And if we are fortunate, we can imbibe something from those devotees. Krishna means his devotees, actually. Otherwise, he's just, something from a book that was written 5,000 years ago. How will it be relevant to us? What will you understand from something 5,000 years ago and nothing to do with this modern world, in other words? Before Google, there was the Encyclopedia Britannica, right? So, then if you read Encyclopedia Britannica, the entry about Krishna, the 8th avatar of Vishnu in the Hindu pantheon of gods, etc., etc., you won't get very enlightened by that. And actually there's an entry about Lord Chaitanya in there too. And that entry says, 15th century saint who suffered from epilepsy, yeah.
Wow.
So that's what we would know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu if we had not heard from the Vaishnava. Before Srila Prabhupada made Bhagavad Gita as it is, there were at least 20 translations of Bhagavad Gita in the English language. But I can tell you with absolute certainty, not one of those made anybody a devotee of Krishna. But how many thousands, perhaps millions of people became devotees of Krishna after reading Bhagavad Gita as it is? There we can see the potency. The Vaishnava, the potency of the Vaishnava. That is everything. The Vaishnava is our eternal link to Krishna. And without the Vaishnava, Krishna is just the 8th avatar of Vishnu in the Hindu pantheon. Doesn't mean anything, does it, to us? Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bhargya Ki Jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Brinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Srila Devashis Prabhu Ki Jai.
Quickly go to the services.
Poi no, ascolta, ma devi vedere che la stessa.
Úgyhogy így korulám.
আমি যদি বলি যে
আমি তোমার কাছে আসবই, আপনি তো হচ্ছে আশেপাশে সবাই ডাকো আর কি তা বলে
Sí.
Nice class, by the way.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai. Adi Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Srivasa Jai, Jai Chandrasekhara Jai, Jai. Jai Nityananda Jai, Gadadhara Jai Jai. Jai Haridas Nama Jai. 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 Hare Krishna.